AI is going to help the industry while it initially hurts the industry and hurts musicians. Mic check 1, 2, 3. Mic check. What's going on, everybody? Tom Quiet here, live and amplified. Hope y'all are having an absolutely amazing day. Today's video is a little bit different. I'm experimenting with some new content. This is a video I've wanted to do for a little while about AI and music. I have my opinions, I have my thoughts, and there's been some new things kind of unfolding in the industry. Like Sony has been sending out letters to AI companies to declaring their, just sending out letters to stop using their content as AI voice trainers and stuff like that. And then there's also like publishing companies that are accusing firms of training AI on songs. So there's a whole lot of stuff that's kind of going on right now. And it's got the entire music industry in a frenzy, which it happens. Like there's always new technology. Like Napster had the music industry in a frenzy. Spotify's had the music industry in a frenzy for a very long time. And now we're kind of transitioning out of Spotify because I kind of think Spotify's got their hold on the industry. And now we're kind of seeing everybody transition over to AI. The first thing that kind of caught my attention was Sony releasing this article to Music Business Worldwide. It was really interesting read. Basically, Sony Music Group is doing is they're sending out letters to all the mainstream AI developers and music streaming services, declaring that it's opting out of having its content used to train AI. So whether that's somebody's music or instruments or voices, also any AI developer who wants to use Sony Music Group's content will need to have explicit permission, which this is all very basic copyright stuff. And I think that's going to be the biggest learning curve with AI is it's going to transform the copyright law. And honestly, it's all just basic copyright law, which I'm no expert in by any means necessary. But, if AI companies are training their AI voice or their AI music generators with using Sony Music or Universal Music or whatever, then that kind of makes a gray line in the music industry and copyright law and stuff like that. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that unfolds, because obviously the music industry's got a lot of money attached to it, so we'll see how this kind of goes. Also, later on in the article, it does say that Sony is reportedly in talks with streaming companies to update their terms of service to forbid the mining and scraping of their content. So basically, to not use the streaming services to use their content and download their content so that somebody else can use AI voice trainer for whatever project they're working on. Now, what would make this very interesting is if, say, somebody were to take an AI voice clone of Beyonce. Let's say, I don't know who Beyonce signed with. She might be with Universal. She might be, but whatever. I don't know who exactly she signed with, but let's say somebody were to take a Beyonce and use her vocals as a voice clone, but they got the music through Spotify. Does that make Spotify liable? Does that make the person liable? Does that make both parties liable? I mean, obviously the person that took the music, they would be liable, but would that also make Spotify liable for making it possible? Or would it make both parties liable? I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to see. So that's one thing that's kind of been unfolding. I've also noticed a lot of videos being put out about musicians being worried about AI replacing them, which I don't think is 100% accurate. Yes, you're going to have that option out there that anybody and their fucking mother can be a musician now because they can use AI voice cloning and all this stuff and make their own music. But I think that's where Spotify is going to come into play and be very beneficial for musicians, because the musicians that can actually play are the ones that are going to be able to go out and play live shows. And that's, we all know, is where the real money is made, not the streaming services, not the downloads. So I think we're kind of okay there. Where AI has its benefits for musicians, and I think more musicians kind of need to start looking into this and experimenting a little bit, is with creative and speeding up creative. Like I've talked to several musicians that say, oh, I'm not writing right now because I'm in a kind of a creative funk. AI can really help you get out of that creative funk or give you inspiration. Or if you're sitting there beating your head against the wall trying to make a song work, saying, like, man, I can't find a song that rhymes with phone that works for a sad song about, my grandfather dying or something. And you could use AI to help kind of expedite that process and help you come up with something unique that you wouldn't just necessarily think of. So I think AI has its place in the world of music as a tool, but I don't think it's going to replace musicians. It's not going to replace songwriters or real songwriters. What it will do, though, is it'll give this pop of fake songwriters for a little bit, and at the end of the day, the real songwriters are gonna win out. Like it's just inevitable at this point. AI is going to help the industry. It's going to hurt the industry initially because there's going to be a lot of growing pains. There's going to be a lot of, things that kind of upset people. But I think at the end of the day, AI is going to help musicians. It's going to help them become more efficient. It's going to help them become more creative. It's going to help them become more diverse. So it'll be really interesting to kind of see how AI helps out in the long run. Where like Spotify, I think, was kind of the reverse. Spotify initially helped a lot of musicians get their music out, but now I think it's kind of hurting because Spotify now sees how much money they can make, and like the money's starting to come into play. So where Spotify, I think, helped originally and is now kind of hurting musicians, I think AI and AI technology will kind of be the reverse, where right now it's hurting musicians and it's scaring musicians, whereas in the future, I think it's only going to help musicians and songwriters kind of build on their craft, become more efficient with their craft, become more, what's the word I'm looking for? Versatile, more create depth in their music. And so it'll just kind of be a matter of, figuring out where AI fits in your creative process. But when it comes to creating voice clones, the industry is scared, and every right to be, because every musician that releases music is going to fall victim to this, where somebody comes in that maybe has a social media presence, but doesn't have the ability to sing, but they want to be a musician. So they'll go find a really good unknown singer, jack their voice or jack their singing ability, recreate it using AI, and release their own music. You get what I'm saying? So that'll be the interesting part. Although that would open up a very interesting new avenue for musicians to basically every person now becomes their own IP. So if you have the ability to sing, or you have the ability to talk, or you have a following with a presence, as a musician or a public speaker, even making your voice the IP and creating that voice clone, as long as there's a way to authenticate that. If, say, Billy Bob down in West Texas takes my voice saying something completely ridiculous, we know that's an AI voice clone because it's not authentically me. but it'll create an interesting business opportunity out there. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. And I think that's kind of where the blockchain comes into play, because I know there's stuff moving behind the scenes with blockchain and cryptocurrency and all that fun stuff. So this video was kind of all over the place, but it started with a video I was watching of Emma McCann. She was discussing AI in music. And then I read this article about Sony and them opting out. And then there was something about Beyonce and Adele's publishers doing the same thing. So it's obviously very topical, very top of mind. And I thought, it might be kind of interesting to take a balanced look. So at the end of the day, I think AI is going to help the industry while it initially hurts the industry and hurts musicians. But if you're ready and you're prepared, it's not going to be that big a shock to the system. Sorry about that. And I think it'll be very interesting. It'll open up definitely new avenues of, you almost got to copyright your own voice or your own style or your own, you should be copyrighting your music, but with the birth of AI, you've got to protect your IP, which as musicians and podcast hosts like myself, your voice is the IP. So anyways, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for you. These are just random thoughts that were kind of flowing through my head. If it sounded a little bit cluttered, I'm sorry. I tried to map out what I wanted to say, tried to map out some thoughts and have a plan moving forward. But here we sit. Once again, thank you all so very much. Hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you later.